Hello friends, welcome to Boardscape. I'm Aaron, and today I'm going to give you 3 reasons that I believe Bloodstone was cancelled last week. So, let's get started. As always, be sure to subscribe below, and while you're down there, check out the Patreon and how you can win some free games. Now, as I said, I'm going to be giving you 3 reasons that I believe Bloodstone was cancelled last week, as well as going into a little bit of a rant on one of the primary issues that I have with Kickstarter and the way that things have been run lately. So, the first reason that I think Bloodstone was cancelled was the price. And this is a game that people have been looking forward to for 2 years. It was announced, I believe, in 2019, and we just did not have a lot of information about it, but what they put forth was very interesting and had a lot of people's attention, right? However, when it was actually delivered, the price was outside of what a lot of people had expected. As we scroll down here, go to the campaign page, we can see that for the base game, we're talking $125. Now, that may not sound like a lot to you, but it is for me, right? When as I was looking up this game, as I was watching it throughout the last year or two, I had expected somewhere in the $99 range. And to see it be $125 really rubbed me the wrong way, right? Because that is $25 more than I had personally expected. And $25 is a bit, with as much as I like to kickstart. I mean, that's half the new route expansion, that's the new tiny epic dungeons. $25 is a good chunk of money. And then when you get down to the other pledges, I mean, for 160, let's scroll down here. For 125 for the base game, right? And then for 160, you get an additional Price of Power expansion and a book. And so I'm not really sure a lot of people were really excited to be spending a little bit of extra money to get a book. Then you got the $200 Legend pledge that adds the neoprene mat and some special dice. Overall, there's just not a lot of additional content. There's not a lot to make people want to dive forward and go deeper, right? And so 125 was farther outside of a lot of people's ballpark than I think Druid City really had anticipated. But when I'm comparing Kickstarters, I'm looking at Mythic Battles Ragnarok coming out next month, a skirmish game, and seeing that that's probably going to be in this same ballpark. I'm seeing Super Fantasy Brawl Season 2 coming in a week or two, and that's going to be in a similar price range for both the new stuff and the old stuff combined. 125 was just a bit of money. Now, another reason that you can see that people were not sold on this is that they had just under 2,700 backers, and at the $1 pledge, 987 backers. Meaning, over a third of the pledges that they actually had still had not made up their mind on whether or not they fully wanted to back this. I was one of these dollar pledges, deciding that I will choose later. Once the pledge manager opens, that's when I'll choose whether or not I actually want to go in. And a lot of people were thinking along the similar lines. So, reason number 1, the price was higher than a lot of people anticipated. Reason number 2 is going to be the stretch goals. The stretch goals did not do a lot for people, and you really saw that in the last couple days of this campaign. As we scroll through here, when we get to the stretch goals, you'll see that most of these daily updates really were just focused on lore. Character lore, monster lore, the lore of what's going on in this world, which is awesome, except that that's all it was. So people who had checked out and said, I'll look again in a week and see what kind of things were added, come back and see that there's not much there outside of this base game, and so they check out again. Now, there's a whole nother issue of whether or not Kickstarter exclusive games should have stretch goals at all, but that's for another time. The stretch goals here just did not do it for people. Reason number 3, or here, we have these daily reveals, and it's all about chapters and the individual monsters and characters. I think right before they canceled, they actually ended up adding a new character, a new playable character. But that's the kind of thing that people were wanting to see over and over again, right? And it just didn't happen. So, the third reason I think that this game did not do as well was the timing and the content. What do I mean by that? The timing being that this came out at the same time as many other high-profile games. We are in just the beginning of March, and it seemed like the end of February and going up through March, there is just massive Kickstarters happening over and over and over again. I mean, in January, we had Primal and Darwin's Journey as some big ones. I guess you could count Carnegie as another big one. But there wasn't a lot in these similar veins. And then there was a bit of a hiatus, a lull, where there were definitely games, but nothing major. And then you get Bloodstone. And at the same time, within a week of when Bloodstone is supposed to launch, you get Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition announced, and that it's coming. You get the new Root expansion announced. It's coming. You get Everdell announced, that it's coming in March. You get Super Fantasy Brawl coming in March, and Mythic Battles Ragnarok in March. What's the other one? There was another big one. Oh, Zombicide. Zombicide announced right when Bloodstone went live, I believe, and just did not. I mean, that's raised $2 million so far, 11,000 backers. So people are still looking for that. The competition that Bloodstone was up against right now was just sort of pushed this to the back burner in people's minds, the back of their minds, where combined with that price, it just that dynamic duo didn't really work, right? Now, not only on top of that, but also I think that there is an issue with this game in general being an arena combat game, because you really have two different games here. You have the PvP and you have the PvE. You have the player versus player arena combat, and then you have the players versus the monster, the big boss battler. So you got these two different sessions, these two different types of things going on in this game, and I think a lot of people were asking, do I really need another one of these? I mean, you have, on the PvP side, Super Fantasy Brawl Season 2 coming up in just a couple weeks. And they've also announced that you're going to be able to get all of Season 1's stuff, the base game, all of it, in that campaign. So for about the same price, you can already get a product that a lot of people love and have been looking forward to. On top of that, you have Arena of the Conflict, and last year, Tenaris launched, and that was chock full of stuff. And you can actually still late pledge for that as of now. I believe that I heard that they had recently reached over $3 million in the Pledge Manager, meaning people are going in on that game. They are looking forward to that. So do they really need another arena combat game? Let alone the Mythic Battle, the skirmish type game coming out. Do they really need it? And then you got the PvE side, right? Where it's the player versus the environment. You got this big boss battler type thing where you are fighting through these different monsters. And the question again is, do I really need another boss battler type game? They're becoming more and more popular. But in January, you had Primal, which was a boss battler, $160. A lot of people just pledged for that. I mean, coming this year, later this year, you have Senkokushin supposed to be coming out. Ready to be Delivered is going to be Oathsworn, and Aeon's Trespass Odyssey, Townsfolk Tussle, Gambler's Chess for Kingdom Death Monster. You have a lot of these boss battler type games already in the works that people are expecting, and I'm not really sure that this added enough difference for people to pay attention. Both on the arena side, the arena conflict PvP, and the big boss battler. It's awesome that it's combined into one game, but it didn't really draw people's attention. So, this game will be coming back this summer. They said they are going to be reevaluating. They have taken a lot of consideration on what people have been telling them, and we'll see. We'll see what they're able to do. I'm not really sure what kind of things they're going to be able to change to make people back this in the summer opposed to now. It could be the timing. They might take a character or two out and lower it to that $99 level where I might be paying attention again, and making those characters an add-on. We will just have to wait and see what they end up doing. But one question that a lot of people were asking when they canceled this funding was why? This game had already funded. They had a pledge goal of $150,000, and it almost doubled that. I mean, yes, they did. They were probably expecting 10,000 backers on this game. Some of their previous games did 7,000, 8,000, and this was going to be their crown jewel, their big break. And I fully anticipate that they expected 10,000 backers. And so I don't in any way, shape, or form think that canceling was the wrong decision. But a lot of people were confused at it. And I think that comes down to an issue with Kickstarter where people have started lowering that pledge goal lower and lower and lower. They knew from the beginning, they knew that if this only had 2,600 backers, 2,700 backers, $300,000, that they would not be happy with that. But they had their pledge goal at half of that. There's this issue in Kickstarter where people need to be funded as quickly as possible. They want to be able to put up on their page, funded in 15 minutes, or funded in 4 hours, or funded in 1 day. There is a sense of camaraderie with that. There's a sense of feeling like you're getting a better deal because so many people were willing to jump on board right away that this has to be a good product. I see that is a mindset that takes over sometimes. Now, for me personally, I don't really pay attention to that anymore. I mean, every single game is being funded in the first day because they set their pledge goals lower than they ever should. I mean, there's been, I can't think of the game off the top of my head, but there was a multi-million-dollar game last year that had a pledge goal of $30,000, and I can almost but guarantee that they would not have gone through with it if they only raised $30,000. So, I get it. I get why they do it, but I don't like it for reasons like this. Because you have 2,700 backers, many of who will just come back in the summer, but many of who also are confused on why they have to wait. Now, there's no real big difference between pushing off this campaign until the summer and just having an extension, an elongated wait after the game has funded, but again, I'm hoping to see that this summer that their pledge goal is a little higher, that they really anticipate that people will like what they change and are okay with not having to put up in the first day that this funded in 4 hours or whatever else. Because now that every single game is doing that, it's sort of lost its luster, right? So, Bloodstone. It was canceled a week ago. I think there are many reasons why. You can check through the comments on the Kickstarter page, which I will link below, to see other people's thoughts and opinions on why it was canceled and what they can be doing better in this summer. So, yeah, let me know what you thought of Bloodstone. Had you backed it? Were you looking at it? Was it a game that interested you? Leave a comment below letting me know. So, thank you for joining me, and as always, game on.